about to kill September. Lord have mercy. This is the last week in September. Is it me or do it seem like it's just us? Done sped up a little bit. Is it me? Jesus, have mercy. Lord help us, I pray. Well, today we're on lesson 4 in our books, and Ehud frees Israel. And I told Keisha, Caitlin in the office, I said, well, I'm glad she didn't name you Ehud. What's wrong with the names? Amen. Sister Rhonda, that window right there, could you just stop that light from shining in my eyes? Thank you. Thank you. Ehud frees Israel. We're in the book of Judges. And our lesson is really centered around the entire 3rd chapter. You should have read before, you should have read after, you should have read all you could, you should have did some studying. This is I don't even know how to label it. This is a lesson. In fact, when I was doing the research and doing notes and stuff, this lesson made me smile. I got to thinking about how wonderful the Lord is. I got to thinking about that nobody can outsmart him. No matter what they do, how big they are, what all they have accomplished, nobody can outsmart God. Lord have mercy. And so I had to smile a couple of times as I was writing notes down. I was smiling. Help me, Jesus. Please help me. So, 3rd chapter of Judges. Ehud, he was a judge in Israel, and he was a left-handed man from the tribe of Benjamin. And he, in this lesson, assassinated the king of Moab, because who was oppressing Israel. It was oppressing them. You'll find out as we go through the lesson how all this happened. Then there's Eglon that was in this lesson also. Eglon was an overweight Moabite king. And he got together with the Ammonites and Amalek, and they invaded the land of Israel. So he went and got help to help him do what he wanted to do. You know, that's the way the devil do. Have you ever thought that it's ganging up on me now? Yeah, it's ganging up on me. And so they invaded, they captured, they called it in our lesson the land of the palms. But if you remember our lesson from last week, the land of the palms was Jericho. So they captured Jericho, and then he began to extract tributes from the people. A tribute was a required financial contribution that they had to give, ordered to give, required to give, that is levied by a ruler. So Eglon decided he wanted tributes. And so he put this oppression onto the children of Israel. And so for 18 long years, he ruled. They had to pay this, they had to do this, whatever he said. In fact, they were under the rulership of Moab. This is a heathen nation over God's people. But there's a reason for that. And if you look back into the history and you follow it down, this was Israel's fault. Because, well, as we go on, you'll find out. So, when the Lord gave them this land, he left certain nations in the land to prove Israel. And so the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, Lord have mercy, every Anaite there was, he left them there to prove Israel. Now, let me tell you, when God started proving you, the real stuff is going to come out. And so they left them there to teach the descendants one thing, to teach the descendants who had not fought in war, didn't know anything about war, because the ones that really had been in war, they had died off the scene. So the Lord wanted these new Israelites to know how to fight, because he knew there was going to be some more fighting involved. And so he wanted to teach them that. And the children of Israel lived among the nations, and they had to be tested to see if, will you 2023. Sometimes things come to let us know, will we obey God or not? Ooh, Jesus, help us, help us, help us, help us. Okay, are you going to obey the Lord's commandments that he had given to Moses? Are you going to do what I asked you to do? And so what Israel did, they went in there and they began to marry their daughters off to these heathen country men. Hey, let the sons marry the heathen country women. And so, and then Israel, not only did they intermingle and weren't supposed to, but what did they do? Then they started to serve the gods of these heathen. Now that's really what ticked the Lord off. Thou shalt have no, that's written plain. They knew it. It had been rehearsed to them for years and years and years. Thou shalt have, and they had the nerve in God's face to serve the gods of these heathen. They sinned. They forgot. They forgot the Lord their God, and they served the idols of Baal and Asherah. And the Lord was angry. That's in your book. You know, one thing I don't want to do is make the Lord angry. I know, Lord have mercy. I don't want to do that because I was working on a message. The Lord, he's dangerous. Did y'all know that he's dangerous? Yes, he is. He's dangerous. As long as you are doing and obeying what he said to do, we like to get up and say how wonderful, how merciful, he is. But you keep on and keep on disobeying and keep on disobeying and keep on going your own way and doing what you want to do in opposition of what he have already told you to do, he's dangerous. And don't let God hurt you. And so he allowed this man, I tried to break it up so I could say it, Shushan-Rishathaim. Yeah, I broke it up so I could tell you who he was. And you see in your book, he should have been in there somewhere. Shushan-Rishathaim, the king of Mesopotamia, for 8 years he allowed him to rise up. Israel cried to the Lord. See, now this is after you done disobeyed. Now, we need to discuss this thing about us obeying and going against God and then crying for him to help us. We need to discuss this because we know when we are not following what he told. Do we know or are we ignorant? Y'all help me right here. We know. We know when we are disobeying. We know when we are going against what God said. And then what we do, we turn around and go to him and ask him for help. That'd be just like me. I'm not cooking. I'm not cleaning. I'm not washing any clothes. You find what you can on your own. I ain't doing nothing. Then up in his face, I saw this new dress in the window. Could you help me get it? Yeah. What are we, my question is, what are we doing? What were they doing and what are we doing when we do this kind of stuff? Lord have mercy. And so they cried unto the Lord, and the Lord raised up Othniel. And he judged Israel, went to war, and the Lord delivered Cushi into his hands. He overtook him too. And the land was at peace for 40 years. This is in the first part of chapter 3. You should have read this. The first part of chapter 3. Again, is that their history? Again, the people of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord. So the Lord gave Eglon, king of Moab, power to defeat Israel. See, when God gets ready to handle you, he'll handle you with somebody that don't even believe in him. He gonna handle you. Oh yeah, he gonna handle you. Yeah, And they did evil, and so the Moab king came in. They fought, and he didn't go by himself. He got some help. Ammon and the Amalekites. He got them together, and they went in and smote Israel, possessed the city of palms, which is Jericho, and the children of Israel had to serve Eglon for 18 long years. Ehud had to step up to the plate because God wanted him to go in there and handle this. He had a special assignment. Oh, Lord have mercy. Don't you know today God gives us special assignments that he wants us to carry out? You know what? I began to think. Now, when he appointed Saul, allowed him to be the first king, on his first mission, he failed. They had whined and cried and kicked and scratched until they got a king. And then they got him, and he had his first assignment, and he couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. So when we have an assignment and we know it's from God, we better get on it and do it exactly like he said do it. The thing about this is it was so miraculous how he did it. Lord have mercy. They served, and so they were under the hand of Eglon. And guess what they did? They cried unto the Lord. They acted like they hadn't done nothing. Oh, Lord, please deliver us. Help us, Lord. Have you ever messed up and then when they asked the Lord to fix it up? That's exactly what they did. They messed up, and then they wanted the Lord to come and fix it up. And the Lord raised up a deliverer in the person of Ehud, a Benjaminite, a left-handed man. And he got the tribute together to carry to King Eglon. This was so unique how this happened. Lord have mercy. Y'all should have read the history about it. And so he was going to carry the tribute to the king. And so in order to please him, this fat king, he wanted somebody important to bring him the tribute. He just didn't want any little peons. Can you imagine? Come on, people. How egotistical can you get? No, he wanted somebody, a renowned person. So here is Ehud judging Israel. So let him bring me the tribute. So Ehud got the tribute together and had the servants with him to go to give this tribute to Eglon. And so in the meantime, Ehud got prepared. He knew what he was going to do, and he got prepared for it. And so the Bible says he made a dagger, which was a two-edged sword, about 1.5 feet long. Y'all, did you read up on it and find out about this? Jesus. He tied it to his right hip. Oh, yeah, tied it to, but he was left-handed. So he tied it to his right hip under his cloak. He didn't know it was there. Eglon didn't know it was there. His servants didn't know it was there. And so we took the tribute to Eglon, who was, as I said, a very fat man. Fat. And when he had given him the tribute, he sent the people that had helped him, his people, he sent them away. And so he went through these places, and he turned and said, he was getting ready to leave, and he turned and said to Eglon, you know, your ego can get you in a lot of, did you know your ego can get you into a lot of trouble? You want to be praised and honored and all of that. You're going to fool around and get you into a lot of trouble. And so he said to Eglon, I have a secret message for you, King Eglon. So Eglon told him, don't say it now. Be quiet. Be silent. And I revealed the message while the others were present. And then he sent all of his servants away. And Ehud went to Eglon, who was sitting in the summer parlor. And he said, I have a message from God for you. Lord Jesus, I have a message from God. The king stood up with all his fat exposed and ready. Ehud reached with his left hand over to the sword which was on his right hip, took it out, thrust it into the king's belly so hard and so far that the whole thing, your handle and all, disappeared into the fat and closed over it. Y'all sure y'all read this? Is this one of the times that you start smiling and chuckling? He had so much fat that the blade went in, the handle went in, the fat sucked it up and closed, and Ehud could not pull it out. Y'all read this, didn't you? It's wonderful. I mean, layers of fat. And you know, fat is squishy. You know, fat is squishy. And something get in there. You have to really work. He couldn't even get, and guess what? He didn't try. He just left it right in him. That the handle disappeared into the fat, and the fat closed around it. So he couldn't even pull it out. Eglon's bowels eliminated right there. Then we said, what did the scripture say? Dirt? That was the dirt. That was an old Greek term used for the dirt. And it came out. Ehud went out, locked the door, and left. Eglon had sent all his servants away. I don't know where they were. That far away that you can't see this man leaving? You didn't see him leaving? You didn't see him going away? Ehud had planned his escape well. He locked the doors, and he left undetected and unhindered. That's just how God does it. You remember when Jesus was on the scene and they was trying to do stuff to him, and he just walked right through them, and they didn't even know it was him? Just walked right on through and went on about his business, because they wanted to kill him then, but it wasn't time. It was not time. And this is just what this man did. He locked the doors and just walked out unhindered. No, undetected. Nobody saw him. Nobody knew what he was doing. And so the king's servants then, they came to the door. And they found the doors locked. So I guess they thought they was being good servants. So they said, well, he's probably in there indisposed at this time. So we'll just wait around here. Do you see how God works stuff out? While they waited, Ehud was escaping. Won't God delay stuff so you can get away? Oh, Lord have mercy. He have delayed stuff for us so we can get away. Lord have mercy. And so they delayed, and they was thinking the king was using the restroom, and they waited a good while. Then because they became concerned that the king had not come and opened the door, they went somewhere and found a key and opened the door. And there it is. Guess what they found? And so, in the meantime, Ehud was on his way. He went out. He went through the quarries. That's where they have all these stones and stuff. We went through there. He escaped to Syria. And when he reached the mountains of Ephraim, he blew the trumpet. Israel heard them. Israel heard the trumpet. And they came to where Ehud was. See that? We're getting ready to do some damage now. Ehud frees Israel. But Ehud didn't do this on his own. We ought to remember that he had God leading and directing him. This is what we need to remember in 2023. We need to have God leading and directing us so we will make the right move at the right time in the right place. Because now, I don't know about you, but some of us done made some horrible mistakes trying to run our own life. Just terrible. Oh, I'm the only one, huh? You trying to run it. How many of you ever done something and didn't even ask God about it? No. What did what did Dr. Phil say? How'd that work for you? We can't just gump up and do stuff. We need to ask God before we do it. Because we can make some horrible messes for our own self. And then we do it just what Israel did. We go to God asking him to get out of this mess that I made. Lord. And sometimes you look at yourself and say, Lord, what in the world was wrong with me? What is the problem with me? Because God didn't do this, you did it. And admitted it was us. See, that's a big point too. We don't want to admit that we messed up. We want to blame everybody but the one that really did it. You acting like you can't make a mistake. Oh, you can make some. This is why we go to him and ask him, is this the right move for me to make at this time? It might be the right move, but it may not be the right time. Oh, Lord, have mercy. Jesus. He blew the trumpet. Israel came to where he was, and he said, follow me. The Lord has delivered your enemies, the Moabites, into your hand. Did he tell Joshua something that sounded just like that? Go in, because the Lord had delivered them into your hand. And he's telling us the same thing. When we follow what he said, he's saying, go in. I have delivered it into your hand. I had an experience that if it had not been for the Lord, I mean, this was recent, that was on my side, looking out for me and my dumb self. Y'all just had to admit sometimes we do dumb stuff. That's right. Oh, yeah, we do dumb stuff. And we are scratching and pulling your hair out and not sleeping at night and ain't half eating. Ah, Lord, because we did dumb stuff and didn't ask God, is this the right move? He would have readily told you, no, this is not the right move. Yeah. So he said, the Lord, and notice this about this. Ehud didn't take any credit. He said, the Lord, oh God, I thank you, has delivered your enemies into your hand. The Lord has done it. A lot of times today, all you hear is me. I did this, I did that. Well, who helped you? When are we going to realize that we need to give him the credit that is so due his name, the honor that is so due his name, the praise that is so due his name? Leave you out of it. The Lord did it. Because you couldn't. You done laid awake at night trying to figure out how to do it. Oh, Lord. I'm the only one. Jesus, have mercy. And so the children of Israel got together. They followed him. They, listen, we back on the following direction thing. Y'all know how I feel about following direction. Because you know how much trouble you can get in without following directions. Not too long ago, somebody went down on the freeway the wrong way. Clearly said, do not enter. What are you going to do? You go. Eh? Clearly said, we have clear instructions, and yet we choose to ignore them and do it your way. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When I messed up. Mm-hmm. It won't. See? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then continue your way. Your way. Now, now this is a good thing. A point to bring out here that you did it your way, and then you had to call on the Lord. We just go and do what we want to do. Ignore the instructions. Ignore the directions. And men have it bad. They don't want to listen to nothing a woman got to say. You ain't the only one. They out here. They don't want to listen. Hmm. And then they have to come back and admit that you was right and I was wrong. That's so hard for them. They just, oh, geez. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Overloaded. Mm-hmm. They don't see. Just going on. Going on. Just going on. And we get out in traffic, forget where you're supposed to be going. All that kind of craziness. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you know what? I don't get in the car and go nowhere until I ask the Lord, help me, protect me, keep me. I tell him all the time, don't let me hit nobody and don't let nobody hit me. Because we need him. Ain't no need us acting like we don't need him. We need him. Every day, every hour, every minute, every second, we need him. And we need to come to the conclusion that we need him more than he needs us. Because he going to find somebody to worship him. He going to find somebody to obey him. Why not let it be you? And then you can reap the benefits of the blessing. But we don't want to listen. We won't do it our way. So they went down there and they took the fords, which is the shallow place where you can cross over a river. They blocked that off. The Moabites couldn't get back over there where they were supposed to be. They blocked that off. It's in your book. They blocked off that to the Jordan, which they could not cross over. They wanted to cross over, but they couldn't because Ehud and the Israelites had blocked that off. And the Israelites slew about 10,000 Moabites that day. Didn't they mention any other day? That day, 10,000 of them went out. Is it a lie? Yeah, it is. And Notice how he described the people that they took out. They were the strongest and the best. Did y'all read that? The strongest and the best of the forces. All of them were men of valor, which means they had been to war. They knew how to war, but they didn't know how to war against Jehovah. Now that, you may know some stuff, but you don't know enough to get by Jehovah. You don't know enough to get by the Lord. You do not have that kind of information that you can overcome him. Because once it's a deal with him, it's done. 10,000 of them, the best they had, taught how to war, taught how to fight, taught how to take over. And Moab was subdued that day under the hand of Israel. And you know Israel wasn't warriors. They had to be taught how to war. They weren't warriors. They had to be taught. And God taught them well. Because when the walls fell down, last Sunday, I forgot to tell you this. When those walls fell down, some of the scientists tried to say it was an earthquake. Yeah. But what they did was follow instructions. And God tore the wall down. See, when we follow instructions, or let me do this one first. When you don't follow instructions, you tie God's hands to helping you. He can't help you if you don't follow instructions. He can't